So, you read the title of the video and let's get straight to it. I know I'm really late for all this, especially Ghost Rider versus Spawn is just in a few days left, which I'm also going to talk about in this video. First things first, the episode was amazing. Although there are some problems with the fight. First, I kind of wanted the fight dynamic between them to be like Guts versus Dimitri because they're essentially suffering the same problems. Second, I don't like how Kratos no-sells everything here. I mean, I understand he was holding back since that's kind of his gimmick in the Norse games, but they should at least show him struggling just for visual sake. Third, I kind of wish to see Kratos with Spartan Rage and Asura, with his Wrath form, start brawling with fists. Fourth and last, I just don't like that front kick. Overall, I love the fight itself, but it's not my favorite death battle fight of all time. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. First things first, I agree with the verdict, but their reasoning was completely biased. So let's break down each of them.
Helios' speed matches Chakravartin, and Kratos outsped him.
In their logic, Kratos outsped Helios. But they weren't fighting. Helios was fighting a titan named Perses, and Kratos did a sneak attack on the sun god. Just because you snuck behind them doesn't mean you're as tough as that guy. It's like if Prime Mike Tyson was fighting Prime Ali, and then I snuck behind Tyson and beat him up with a baseball bat. That doesn't mean I am as strong as or stronger than Tyson. They should have used Hermes and Heimdall for this instance. Asura's best travel feat was definitely crossing the infinite pillar, and Hermes was able to do that, but much faster since it's literally his job to do that, as he guides the dead to the underworld. But then Kratos is able to react to Hermes. I'm surprised no one asked me about Asura resisting time stops in my last video. Heimdall can also resist time manipulation, as he was able to move normally during realm shifts, as none of the other gods was able to do that, even Thor and Odin. So Kratos already has experience fighting people who can cross infinity and resist time manipulation.
Atlas is strong enough to lift all of reality, and Kratos overpowered him.
This is where novel feats came to play. One of the very thing I avoid to do during the last video. The reason to that being Kratos will be wanked so much that he'll just stomp Asura. But if they want to use Kratos' strength properly, they could have scaled him to Hercules because Atlas wasn't really fighting Kratos, since he was chained. It was stated Hercules did his 12 labors, and one of them included taking Atlas's place for a while, that even Hera said his brute strength bested Hercules.
Kronos defeated the creator of the universe in a one-on-one fight, same as Asura, and Kratos killed Kronos.
This part is where people think Kratos can't scale above Kronos. I know in the last video I said Kratos scales above Kronos, but I should have tackled more about why I think he does. Yes, Kronos was chained and weakened, but Hades fought Kronos all by himself at one point during the Titan War. Poseidon only helped Hades with Atlas, not with Kronos. All that while Kratos was also able to beat Poseidon, who is stated to be second only to Zeus. Also, I said this in my last video where I said there's no scans for Chakravartin creating the universe. Well, here's the thing. He did say he created the world. But world could also mean just a planet. There's also this one time he possessed Mithra's body and literally pointed at Earth while using the term world. So I still don't know if Chakravartin did create the universe for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if he actually does. There's one more thing about Chakravartin that doesn't make sense. People use the argument where he is said to be omnipotent, but for someone who lost to a fight, that immediately cancels out his omnipotence. One last thing, I also noticed that they gave Kratos the Blade of Olympus, even though he literally left the blade on Greece. Since they gave Asura the Mantra reactor core, I thought it was fair to give Kratos the blade. I mean, Asura doesn't have the core anymore by the time he fought Ryu and Akuma, and Kratos doesn't have the blade anymore by the Norse saga. So that's why I think it was fair for them to give Kratos the blade. Now we're here, I also want to address the claims of Classic Man D. Before I do that, I just want to clarify that this does not mean I am looking for beef with him. He makes good points, and I just want to address things he pointed out. I am a huge fan of his work and highly recommend subscribing to him. So, anyways, here's what he has to say.
Boy, Kronos was weakened and chained up. Then he needed the Blade of Olympus and other god weapons to even do this. So how does that make him on par with Kronos?
I already addressed the weakened Kronos bit, but remember, Kratos killed Hades without using the Blade of Olympus. But questioning how is Kratos on par with Kronos if Kratos was using the blade while completely ignoring the fact that he killed gods that are already stronger than Kronos, such as Poseidon and Hades, without the blade of Olympus, is pretty wild.
Like they say all of that, but even the strongest version of Kratos can still just die by getting stabbed or blunt force trauma to the head. You have never seen Kratos do any feat anywhere near Asura. From the start of the game, Asura has defeated someone 2 sizes bigger than our planet.
You talk about blunt force trauma, but you are just going to ignore the fact that Chakravartin died because Asura punched him really hard, or the fact that Yasha Karate chopped Asura, sending him to Naraka. I agree with you when you said, we never saw Kratos pull of Asura's feats, but Kratos is limited by the game mechanics.
Boy, Asura defeated life, death, and rebirth in his base form. This shouldn't be a fight.
That's just pure glazing right there. Killing life, death, and rebirth doesn't mean anything in this case. They're merely just titles. A Kratos fan can just glaze back by saying, Kratos defeated 2 fates themselves in one without the Blade of Olympus. Kratos defeated the embodiment of death without the Blade of Olympus. What's that? He got help? After Deimos died, Kratos got so enraged that he literally no-sells Thanatos' attacks. Kratos killed the Greek Big Three, who's already scales above Kronos, with 2 of them without the use of the Blade of Olympus. Thor, who literally took on the world serpent and Ragnarok at the same time, and Ragnarok is able to splinter the world tree, a tree who holds life itself.
The tree's very existence supports all of creation along its boughs. Its life energy interwoven into the tapestry of life. Birth, growth, death, and rebirth.
Sound familiar? It's like saying Marvel comic Thor would beat Kratos because he's a god. You're gonna have to be more specific as to why Marvel Thor is not like any god's Kratos fight. Also, the base form thing was really niche. As you see, Yasha was able to be on par with Asura, even in his wrath form. Does this mean Yasha is stronger than Chakravartin all these time? I think that's just plot armor right there, just like Kratos as a whole. One last thing before I talk about Ghost Rider versus Spawn. People use this one Cory Balrog tweet where the gods aren't even universal. You really want to use Twitter feats? Fine. The battle between Uranus and Kronos was said to be cosmic as well. What's that? That's not Balrog? All right then, here's a statement from Cory Balrog himself that all gods are not bound to space and time, and all of them exist in a higher realm. If we take that into account, weak gods such as Persephone, Hera, or Sif, they all are 5D by default. There's also one more Cory Balrog statement that just straight up says, Kratos can be infinite. See now why I refuse to acknowledge Twitter feeds? Besides, no one likes Twitter feeds. Now let's move on to Ghost Rider versus Spawn. Now for Ghost Rider versus Spawn. Boy, am I absolutely hyped for this matchup. It's among my top 3 most favorite matchups of all time, and I'm so glad it's happening. I will just lay out what I know about this matchup. Just like Kratos versus Asura, where it falls on lore versus feats, Ghost Rider versus Spawn falls under stats versus hacks. For stats, Ghost Rider could literally survive beatings from the World Breaker Hulk, beat Mephisto in his own realm, just to name a few. But Spawn can literally out-haxes. His suit has a 6th sense, making sneaking up on him practically impossible. Turn invisible, manipulate his density, create weapons, stop time, even his own penance stare, and many more. I don't know who will win, thus making this matchup one of my favorites. Let's talk about what I think will happen. So the big one, penance stare. We see how a symbiote can literally survive a penance stare, and Spawn's suit function much like a symbiote. But let's say it can kill Spawn. Spawn has many souls in his body, but I don't think that can do anything, seeing as Ghost Rider can use it all at once. Looks like it's easy win, but we're forgetting the fact that Spawn can do that too. And one time, Penance Stare was used on Ghost Rider, and it turned him back into Johnny. So that's it then? Whoever uses the Penance wins, right? That's so boring, to be honest. I really don't know how this will go, but my humble opinion, Ghost Rider would win. Reason being he scales above Doctor Strange. And Spawn has Doctor Strange-ish powers, such as time control, intangibility, and other magic stuff. I don't think holy weapons would hurt both characters, seeing as Ghost Rider can survive holy weapons and holy beings such as Zadkiel and Spawn, literally able to hold a holy sword that kills other hell spawns and survive decapitation. But if we go down to Zarathos versus Divine Spawn, that's going to be heavily dependent on which universe has the bigger cosmology. With that alone is enough to convince me to side with Ghost Rider. I'm still willing to change my mind, but until then, I'd stick with Ghost Rider, so that's all I have to say. Now get out of here.